Remodelers and custom builders, let's talk about the anatomy of a high converting website. So we'll talk about design, we'll talk about conversion, and we're going to go through all the details today. So let's dig right in. All right, let's start with your website. What is the purpose of your website? Really, it has three main jobs. So let's talk about those first, and then we will break down how this plays out when we actually get on to your website. So job number one is to attract. Your website, when built properly and worked on properly, will actually attract more of the right people, more of the right buyers to it. Then it needs to educate. Now, this piece is really important because if you've ever received a referral lead, you know that they don't really need as much education because they had a direct recommendation from someone said, "You're awesome, just work with this company." A marketing generated lead typically means they don't know very much about you. This may be the first time they've learned about your company, and so we need to educate and build trust. And so a good website will do that. And then it needs to convert leads. And we're going to talk about that a lot today because a website can look amazing. It can look stunning. But if it doesn't convert any leads, then I would argue it's not doing one of its most important jobs. So we want to keep this in mind as we go through today, which are these are the main three jobs that your website should be doing for you. Attracting the right people, educating those people, and then converting them and capturing them as leads. Okay, with that in mind, let's start to look at the anatomy of a website. I'm going to use this page as kind of the home page, but we're also going to talk about some of the other components as well. So let's start. You've got your logo up here, and then we're going to talk about navigation. So this is going to be where your navigation lives. And we want to make sure that we have some core pages here. So we want to make sure we have services clearly defined and laid out so that people know what you do. We want to have a portfolio so people can see what you've done. You can show off your work. We want to make sure we have process, about. We want to make sure you have a blog. You've got a contact form. And then you can build on this. You can have individual service pages. You're going to build out project spotlight pages. But we need to have at least our core navigation set, meaning somebody can land here and they can learn what you do, where you do that, and then they can get a sense of how it looks to work with you and what it looks like to go through that process. They can also dig a little bit deeper, again, the educate here by diving into your blog and exploring lots of topics that you're going to talk about there. So that is the navigation. So that's going to live up here and people can browse around your site. We also want to include trust signals. So these are important because, again, pretend that every visitor that comes to your website, this is the first time that they're ever learning about you, your company, and what you do. Trust signals are going to help elevate, their perception of you, basically. It's going to increase their likelihood that they stay on the website and learn more, and then ultimately give up their information and convert into a lead. So what are trust signals? Some common ones would be testimonials. We would have awards, reviews, project spotlights, badges. So this is going to be things like, if you're a member of NARI or any other organizations, you can put that there. If you have any certifications or designations or anything like that, those can go here too. So these are trust signals, and we want to bake those into our website. So as people are browsing through your homepage or any of these pages, we've got these baked in. So that will help us build a little bit of trust and authority, and increase the likelihood that somebody ultimately converts. Okay, now let's talk about conversion, because this video is all about the anatomy of a high converting website. So we need to make sure we have calls to action. We call them CTAs. And we want to make sure that these are everywhere. So the funny thing about websites is that people can enter any page. So they could do a Google search and land on your homepage. They could do a Google search and land on a very specific blog. They could go to ChatGPT and it might pull somebody right into your kitchen services page. So you want to think of any page on your website. It could be the first door, the first place that they land. And so with that in mind, that could also be the one and only page they ever see, because a lot of people hit a website and then leave. And so we want to make sure we have the ability to convert. And so that's why we want our calls to action everywhere. Everywhere meaning every page. And we are doing a deep dive on the convert pillar. And if you remember from the overview, we want to have 2 doors on every page. One is for researching leads and one is for ready leads. So we're going to have a lead magnet and an on-ramp. Just as a refresher, a lead magnet is going to be information that we're trading for a name and an email at a bare minimum. So here's my pricing guide. Okay, and they give you a name and an email for it. On-ramps are on-ramps to sales. So that's going to be contact us, schedule a consultation. They could just book a meeting through a meeting scheduler, but they are filling out a form. We're capturing that information, but they have done it through something that said, I want to talk to sales. So we want to have both of these on every single page. We also want to have multiple throughout the page. And so if we look at this as our home page here, we've got our navigation, we've got our image up here. Then we're going to have our calls to action up here. And so this is going to be our 2 doors. This might be contact us. This might be download our pricing guide. Then as somebody continues to scroll down the page, we're going to have some text. People are going to be learning. We might have an image right here. And we might have another image right here. Might have some text. Then we're going to have, like a area module showing people where you work. And there's going to be a little map here and some more text. As somebody is scrolling down and learning more about you, your company, they're getting a taste of the process or where you work and all of those types of things. We can also make sure that we're putting our 2 doors and our calls to action throughout the page as we're moving down. So if somebody is going to see this, they're going to start scrolling and they're going to make it down here. We want to have them have that opportunity to convert top of mind. And so that is what's going to allow you to convert more leads. All the stuff in between is how we're going to educate. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit and talk about design. You'll notice we have spent however many minutes that this video has been going, and I haven't once talked about what this website looks like visually. What I've learned over the years working with hundreds of remodeling, contracting, custom building websites is typically most people really want to focus on design. Hey, I want to redesign my website. I don't think it really looks that good, or it needs to be brought up to date, whatever that means. I still don't know what that means. Design does matter. I'm not going to say that it doesn't. Design does matter, but it's always subjective. I could love a website that you hate. You could love a website that I hate. We could stick 10 of your past clients, people that have actually worked with you, have them go to your website and say, do you like this website? And you might get 10 different answers. And so what I've learned over the years is that, yes, design does matter. It matters to the extent that it needs to be in connection with your brand. It should represent your brand accurately. It should display photography that is in line with the projects that you actually do. So if you do high-end design build, you don't want to be putting grainy, blurry photos on your website. Somebody will get there and there's a mismatch in the alignment. So we need to have the design actually align with what you do. But beyond that, you know, if the layout's a little bit different, if the color scheme is a little bit different, all of those things, they're just subjective. We could argue over them literally forever. So design does matter, but conversion matters more. And so if you have a design, if you're working with somebody and they're helping you redesign your website, I would look at the overall just like visual look and feel and say, does this represent my brand? Does the photography I'm using, does the language that I'm using, does it speak to my ideal audience? And if it does, then your design is probably generally good enough. The funny thing is, as you break down design, you actually start to get into layout. And layout is actually more important because it influences conversion, right? I just kind of threw this sample layout here, but within this layout, one of the most important things I did was I put 2 CTAs above the fold. Let's say right here is the fold. That's where somebody, if they want to see below this, they need to scroll. I have 2 CTAs here, and I even had 2 right here. And then I have 2 down here if somebody continues to scroll. Just the fact that they have multiple opportunities to convert on this page multiple times, that's going to get me more leads than if we just wipe the slate clean. We made the top section here gorgeous by everyone's standards. Everyone in the world thought this was the most beautiful website. But if there's no calls to action, it's not going to convert and you get no leads. And so that's why my mindset around websites and design shifted years ago. Design does matter, but conversion matters more. And so I want you to remember that anytime you go through a website redesign project, you think about redoing your website. That's one of the reasons we at BuilderFunnel, we built our foundation, which is our website product. We built it around conversion, SEO, ranking, and yes, it looks good, it looks sharp, but that is secondary to what matters most and what actually puts leads in your pipeline and projects into your business and revenue into your business. Okay, so let's talk about conversion, because I said conversion matters more. Why does it matter so much? So let's look at the typical remodeler website. And so we're going to say, hey, we're getting, 10,000 visitors to our website. So 10,000 people are coming to this. This could be per month, per quarter, per year, whatever volume makes sense for you. If you are the average remodeler, you're converting at 0.5%. So that means 0.5% of the people that get here fill out a form, and they actually convert into what we call a raw lead, which means we captured some information. And so if that's the case, you're going to get 50 leads. Now, if you have just focused on design, you haven't implemented conversion into your website, this is pretty common. I would say 0.5. I've done this manually for many, many years. Talk to a remodeler, they come in, I look at their analytics, look at their conversion rate, and it averages to 0.5 almost every time. It's 0.2, it's 0.3, it's 0.7, it's 0.5, it's 0.6. It's right in that range from, I would say, 0.2 to 0.8, and it always averages out to about 0.5%. When you start to implement, trust signals, calls to action, you get these things baked into your entire website, not just on your homepage, but all the pages in your navigation, all of your blog posts. You have 2 doors on every single page. Then you can bring this up to, 1.5 is very common. You can definitely get it north of this. But just by doing that, you take the same traffic of 10,000 visitors. Let's say you get 10,000 visitors a quarter. That would be fairly common. You're getting, 3,000 or 4,000 a month. That means you're getting 50 leads every quarter. You implement this and you get that to 150 leads 3 times. And then that just starts to compound. You're getting 3 times the leads next quarter, the quarter after that, the quarter after that. your sales pipeline starts to just balloon out. And so that's why we always say conversion matters more. Design does matter, but if it's not converting, if your website is not doing these 3 jobs, attracting, educating, and then converting leads, then it's falling flat for you. Because honestly, your website is 24/7 salesperson. It can do more than a whole team in many cases, because it will work around the clock. It never takes breaks. It never takes holidays. People can be visiting it. They can be educating themselves. They can be filling out forms and converting into leads. And so there you have it. This is the anatomy of a high converting website. We talked about navigation, trust signals, calls to action, and don't forget the 3 important jobs that your website should be doing. We'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.